Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. If you're one of the victims of the recently revealed hack of Facebook, you should be extra careful on the internet and extra watchful of your other online and offline accounts. Someone has reportedly siphoned personal information on 30,000 or more U.S. Department of Defense workers. The UK government wants to secure smart home gadgets, and someone used a deep learning AI to perfectly insert Harrison Ford into Solo, a Star Wars story. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
Jeff Weston,
Yeah, man.
you're building a brand new, beautiful website,
What?
aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/dreamhost.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. If you're one of the victims of the recently revealed hack of Facebook, you should be extra careful on the internet and extra watchful of your other online and offline accounts. The data hackers gleaned from the social network could be used for identity theft and to access accounts ranging from those at banks and other financial institutions to online stores. It could also be used in so-called spear phishing attacks, in which hackers use the information they know about particular users to send them personalized messages that convince them to leak their passwords or other critical data. Some 30 million accounts were compromised in the attack, which Facebook first announced 3 weeks ago. The hackers were able to gain access to names and phone numbers of nearly all of those users, as well as personal details such as birth dates, relationship status, gender, and education and work histories for 14 million of them. This data can potentially be used to hijack accounts on other services besides Facebook as well. The password reset feature on many sites asks users to answer certain security questions. Those questions often ask for just the kind of personal details that were revealed in the Facebook hack. But it's not just online accounts that are at risk. Information such as names and birth dates can also be used to gain access to banking accounts or medical records over the phone. You can find out whether you were affected by the Facebook attack by logging into your account and by going to a security page the company has set up. We've created a hot link for you at cat5.tv/FBhack.
Okay.
Wow.
I didn't even think of the fact that this information could be used for gaining access to other sites.
Right. This leads me to like an incredible real life story as far as I had myself locked out of my bank account because I have a really incredibly long password that I...
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this to me. You're right.
So I just locked myself out with too many attempts because I was trying to actually manually type in, which I should never do. I should use my actual password manager all of the time. And when I called into the bank, and I said, when I called them, I was like, I just need to prove to you who I am. Ask me a series of questions. I used to work at this bank, so I know the questions they're going to ask me anyway.
Yeah.
Ask me a series of questions, and I'll answer them. You can unlock my account, and I can log in. And the person on the phone said, I suggest you use a weaker password.
Oh.
Or a less complicated password. He didn't say
Can I just... Banks, come on.
So
I had the bank tell me, two different banks told me twice in the past week to use Internet Explorer.
Yeah. So now Facebook has had, Facebook users have had their data taken, right? It's stolen. And then people are calling the banks, perhaps. I'm not saying it's happened yet, but maybe. And they're answering the questions exactly that the bank is trained to ask.
Yep.
And that's crummy.
When I was a kid, I wasn't the most honest kid.
Okay.
I got a hold of my brother's bank book. And I know all the answers to his questions.
Right.
And they didn't think that Yeah, he knows the answers. He's his brother.
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Sorry, bro.
it's just crummy that now you have to, if you have Facebook, you have to be careful of absolutely everything. Now, I mean, you can go to our link and see whether or not you were in fact affected.
cat5.tv/FB-hack will take you there. Now, whether or not you're affected, this is something that maybe we don't really think on how this can happen, because if I've got connections like my mom on Facebook and my mom's account, now we're not quite there yet, but certainly the next generation, there is a historical data of even the parental roles. So my wife, for example, before she was Ferguson on Facebook, she was her maiden name.
Right.
Because we're from the generation where Facebook existed when we were teenagers.
Right.
So the next generation, my kids, now all of a sudden, so think of that generation, and that data is gleaned, and my daughter has a bank account, and the first question that the bank might ask is, what's your mother's maiden name?
That is one of the questions.
That is one of the questions, and that is easily gleaned for that generation if her account is hacked.
Right.
And it's not her account that was hacked, it was Facebook's data that was hacked, and now that information is available to those hackers. So it's not even necessarily that they're calling the banks, they can use the online banking service. It's like I say to folks, like, the very most important password for you to protect is your email, because what happens when you forget your password somewhere else? You click forgot password, and guess what happens next?
The email.
You get an email.
I know.
So if your email account has been compromised, the first thing you need to do is change your email on every service that you have.
Right.
But it's a similar situation where if they know the answers to the dummy questions, what's the name of your dog? What's your favorite teacher's name? Well, I liked all the photos of my favorite teacher and told her that she's a great teacher on Teacher's Day.
Maybe even said, this is my favorite teacher.
Yeah, exactly. So all that information is now available for a whole different kind of social engineering attack that can happen behind the scenes before we even know it's even happening. We're not taking a phone call. The bank's not even taking a phone call. It's all electronic.
It's scary. And you have to be very skeptical of absolutely everything now.
The FOO recommends that when you get those questions, enter a lie.
Right. Well, I have
and
to
I'll be
lie.
truthful. Oh, well, your computer at work, I set that up for you.
I know.
And I had someone call me once and said, I don't know what color monkeys are. Were you in on that conversation?
Oh my goodness, it's funny
I don't know what color monkeys are. I've tried everything. I tried brown, I tried black.
Orange?
It has nothing to do with the answer.
Not at all.
Nothing at all. When I get those questions, I'm like mashing the keypad with my palms. Like, I don't want these questions. If I ever forget my password, well, then I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm not going to forget my password. And
that's good. Yeah, I have to lie about them anyway because I
don't know
can't
what
spell.
color monkeys are.
I can't spell orangutan, and that's my favorite animal.
Oh, brilliant. Unbelievable. True story, true story.
What can you do? Someone has reportedly siphoned personal information on 30,000 or more U.S. Department of Defense workers. According to anonymous sources at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., an unnamed individual was able to access department travel records earlier this year and would have been able to log employees' submitted personal information, such as names, dates of birth, and credit card numbers. Both military and civilian workers are believed to have been caught up in the theft, and the current estimates sit at roughly 30,000 people having their records exposed to miscreants, with that number set to climb as the investigation continues. The data theft is said to have occurred not within the Pentagon itself, but rather within a third-party vendor it uses to book travel. The vendor was not identified. Word of the data spill comes as the DoD is looking to kick off a major reorganization of its IT operations with the awarding of the 10-year, $10 billion JEDI contract program. Cloud vendors are being asked to put together proposals that would see a single vendor get the task of creating a new cloud system to handle operations for the entire department. That an outside vendor would be tangled up in the theft of personally sensitive information, just as the Pentagon looks to offload the bulk of its agency and employee data to another third party with JEDI is not particularly looking good. Still, a mere 30,000 personnel records would actually be a huge improvement from the government's worst data fumble, the 20 million plus records stolen by Chinese hackers in the 2015 OPM mega hack.
I think if this shows us anything, it's that if I think for a moment that, oh, I'm not going to sign up for Facebook, or I'm going to close my Facebook account because I heard they, I don't want my data out there. These are DOD staff members.
Yeah, they think there's, yeah.
They're not necessarily on Facebook.
No.
So if you think, oh man, this is just the world we live in.
Exactly. You just have to just know that
Oh boy.
it's out there. People are siphoning information.
I think that's
from
the
you.
unfortunate truth, is that our data is out there anyways.
Yeah.
I said to my wife, because she has a family member who is vehemently opposed to Facebook right now because of all the things that are happening with data breaches and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what they don't realize is every time they pay with their credit card, every time they pay with their debit card, they're being tracked anyways.
Right.
Those transactions are now tied to your person. They know where you shop. They know where you go, what time you're there. They know your trends. They know that's why they do it. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just the truth. Why do you think that the grocery store in town now has a points program? Because they can keep track of what you're spending and what you're doing.
Exactly.
And then they provide targeted advertising.
Yeah, and
They actually do that.
and it works. It's how the world works now. So
Yeah.
we just have to get.
We have to
used-
kind of accept that, but be smart about it.
Exactly. We just have to get used to it, and we have to be protective of our very important information. We have to be skeptical when outside sources come in looking to us for things.
Maybe that's it.
Right? But then we also have to think about the people who pretend to be us out there in the world, and that's the step that I have a lot of trouble with, because I can't control that as easily.
Yeah.
Right? It could already be out there.
And I think that's where regulations have to come into place, or guidelines have to come into place with regards to security, because companies, and we've had this discussion about the gentleman who had their Bitcoin stolen because their phone company had allowed someone to do a SIM swap fraud. And it comes down to that staff member who allowed it to happen.
Right.
Well, they didn't authenticate that this was really the person
Right.
coming in and doing a SIM swap, which was basically gave this person coming in and pretending to be the other person access to their phone service. Switched it over to them.
You just
Those kinds of things can't happen anymore,
yeah.
because our data, our confidential personal information, is so tied to our accounts and our devices.
Yeah, it's a whole mental swap we have to do, really. We have to really change the way we think about absolutely every step of the process. So, I mean, knowledge is power, and that's why we do these news stories, even though they seem really disheartening at times.
Yeah, it's not meant to be dark or
I know.
spooky, but we gotta be realistic, and we gotta kind of educate ourselves.
Yeah,
And-
this is preventative information for you.
And I think you hit the nail on the head of being more skeptical of those who pretend to be third parties, because as soon as they have information about our accounts, we're more willing to give them more information.
Right.
Because someone will call us, or someone will approach us, or send us a letter that looks all official and has official information. When I get a bill from my internet company, I don't question it, I just pay it.
Right.
Well, what if it's not really my internet company, right? To put a real easy spin on it.
Well, if I can give you just a quick example of something that's happened to me this week, which is funny because like you're in my mind now. I have this project for school, so I'm Googling all these images that I'm perhaps needing for my project. And I'm clicking on them, but they're Pinterest images and I don't have Pinterest, right? So I'm in Google and I'm
Right.
signed into Google, right? But I'm clicking and I'm like, oh, I don't have Pinterest and I don't want Pinterest.
Right.
So I just like X out of them and go to something else. Well, today in my email, I had an email from Pinterest. Well, click here. And I thought, I don't have Pinterest. How did they know? Like, I'm not just clicking and signing into this app thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, probably it's just because I was in Google on my profile and they're linked somehow. I don't know. They probably own each other. But, but I'm now, like, I don't open emails like that I think, if I want Pinterest, I will pursue you, right? I won't open an email from somebody who is like my bank right?
Yeah, you've got to be really wary of that, even if it looks official.
Yeah, I will go to you. You don't need to come to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't need to click your links. Thank you very
Exactly.
much. And speaking of regulations, perhaps helping with the security of our data,
Yes.
we jump right into our next story.
The UK government wants to secure smart home gadgets. Makers of smart home devices are being encouraged to make their gadgets secure against hack attacks. The UK has published a voluntary code of practice for manufacturers that show how they can proof their creations against common attacks. It aims to stop gadgets being hijacked and used to mount cyber attacks and stamp out designs that let cyber thieves steal data. The government initiative is aimed at makers of small, smart gadgets for the home, such as web-connected doorbells, cameras, toys, and burglar alarms, the so-called Internet of Things. An increasing number of cyber attacks exploit poor security on these gadgets. The detailed code includes 13 separate steps manufacturers can take to produce more secure products. The steps include securely storing customer data, regularly updating software, requiring users to choose stronger passwords, making it easier for users to delete data and reset a device, as well as setting up a vulnerability disclosure policy. Two companies so far, HP and Hive Centrica, have agreed to follow the code.
Excellent. Okay, well, this is a step in the right direction, I must say.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Internet of Things, we talked about this a little bit last week as well. It's really easy just to go with your default passwords.
That's it, yeah.
Right? So
and manufacturers bringing out, we mentioned, like 10,000 of the same device and putting the same password on every single one.
right. So
Because it's just easy to flash the firmware, right?
exactly. So the UK putting this out is actually really timely and great practice. So, I mean, it's voluntary from what I understand.
That's the thing. And some would say maybe this shouldn't be voluntary. Maybe this should be law. Maybe this should be enforced. Maybe these rules should be put in place by the government and forcefully applied to companies.
Right.
But I think my take on it, Sasha, is it not a good step in the right direction? Is it not a good guide for companies to start, and I really want them to like tackle this,
Yes.
to wake up and say, okay, these are some good rules to follow. I'm going to start it. So now we see HP saying, yeah, we're going to follow this. So now me as a consumer, I can personally feel a little more confident in purchasing a smart home device from HP.
Right.
So it has this added benefit of, okay, well, I as a company, if I adopt these security policies that government has laid out for us to voluntarily adopt, now the consumer has gained confidence in our practices, and it's better for our business.
Exactly. Consumer confidence is all you really need as a company, right? So say there are, 5 different companies and 2 of the 5 have adopted these practices. I'm not even going to shop with the other 3.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
So it just makes sense. I mean, maybe it's too costly for them to make it a law. I'm not quite sure how it goes, but if they have this as a voluntary thing, it makes sense to me that companies would actively pursue following these recommendations and these steps, because it's really going to benefit them in the long run.
Will it eventually become common sense? Will it eventually get to the point where
Right.
no company has to be told by legislation that their device needs a username and password to log in?
Right.
And now, even more so, two-factor authentication is becoming more predominant as well.
Yes.
So no company needs to be told that their interface needs a password. No, that's duh.
Yeah.
So does it need to be legislation? Maybe not. Maybe it needs to become common practice, and to the point where we consumers would say, they don't even use a password? That's stupid. I don't want people to be able to access my network, so I'm not going to buy that.
Can you imagine a burglar alarm having like a default, like just generic
I can because it's
password?
real. I can because it's real, Sasha.
So, okay, I don't have a burglar alarm, right? But if I did, I would assume I was secure.
You would hope.
I would
You
hope.
would really, really hope, but it's not always the case.
No, I guess not.
This is where I sign up to be a pilot, right?
Someone used a deep learning AI to perfectly insert Harrison Ford into Solo, a Star Wars story. Casting anyone other than Harrison Ford in the role of Han Solo just feels like sacrilege. But since Ford is now 76 years old, playing a younger version of himself would be all but impossible. Or at least impossible if you rely on the standard Hollywood de-aging tricks like makeup and CG. Artificial intelligence, it turns out, does a pretty amazing job at putting Ford back into the role of Solo. The YouTube channel Derpfakes uses the deepfakes technique with free software and has been posting videos that demonstrate the impressive and at times frightening capabilities of image processing using artificial intelligence. Using a process called deep learning, an AI analyzes a large collection of photos of a given person, creating a comprehensive database of them in almost any position and pose. It then uses that database to intelligently perform an automatic face replacement on a source clip. In this case, replacing actor Alden Ehrich's face with Harrison Ford's. As we've seen before, like when deep learning was used to erase actor Henry Cavill's Justice League mustache, the results are not only good, they're actually better than the visual trickery that Hollywood visual effects studios are capable of.
That is nuts. It just is one of those things where it's like, okay, once again, fan films and fan creations are doing more than what they're able to do in the studio. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. It feels
too cool.
It feels like it's something attainable, like we can do that now.
Yeah, the technology is, you've got to be good at it. Like these derpfakes are so pro at using this software, but it would be so much fun. Like, we have how much footage on Category 5? Like, could we be like superheroes or something in like the next big movie?
Yes, we could.
Somebody make it happen. Somebody in the community, please make it happen. All right. Before we round up tonight, here are the crypto market outlooks as of 1700 hours when we recorded the show Eastern Time on Wednesday, October 17th, 2018, according to CoinGecko. Bitcoin hit $6,664.68 US. Litecoin is trailing at $54.60. Ethereum is at $210.39. Monero is at $108.11. Stellite at 6.63 ten-thousandths of a cent. And trailing even further behind that is Turtlecoin, slowly but surely at 0.32 ten-thousandths of a cent. Remember, the cryptocurrency market never closes and it is always volatile. That's all the time that we have.
Wow. Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson.